The hum of the airplane filled the cabin, but all she could hear was the tiny voice beside her. "If I share my cookie, will you stay?" The question came from a little girl with big, curious eyes, clutching a chocolate chip cookie like it was the most precious thing in the world. She looked at the woman next to her, a tired, worried single mom trying to keep her daughter calm while juggling a small bag and even smaller hopes. The mom froze, unsure how to respond, caught between compassion and the invisible walls life had built around her heart. The little girl didn't know it, but her father wasn't just anyone. He was the CEO of a massive company, a man who seemed untouchable and distant to the world outside his private life. Yet here, high above the clouds, all that power meant nothing. All that mattered was the fragile connection forming over crumbs of a cookie and whispered words of innocence. As the plane continued its long journey, both women sat quietly, the tension thick with unspoken questions. Would kindness bridge the gap between their worlds? Or would this fleeting moment pass before anything could change? The answer was still hanging in the air. The single mom glanced down at the little girl again. Her heart tugged in a way it hadn't been in years. She had been traveling alone, juggling late-night shifts, rent, and groceries, barely keeping her own dreams alive, let alone anyone else's. And yet, here was this tiny stranger offering a piece of her cookie. As if sharing something so small could mean something so big, she couldn't help but notice the girl's innocence. The way she clutched her father's hand, though he was nowhere near them at the moment, and how her eyes seemed to carry both hope and a hint of loneliness. It was clear she was used to getting attention, yet she had chosen this moment, this person, to reach out. The mom's mind started racing. Who exactly were they? Why was a CEO's daughter sitting alone with strangers on a plane? She caught glimpses of the little girl's father across the aisle, a man in a crisp suit, focused on papers and a phone, his expression unreadable. There was wealth, power, a life she could never imagine, and yet, in this quiet moment, none of that seemed to matter to the girl. The plane hummed on, and the single mom realized she was standing at the edge of something unexpected. A story that could change more than just her day, but she had no idea how. The little girl nudged her cookie closer, her eyes wide and earnest. "I don't like sitting alone," she whispered, almost afraid the single mom might say no. The mom's hands trembled slightly as she reached for the cookie, realizing how fragile and brave this tiny gesture was. She wanted to say yes, to give comfort, but the practical side of her mind screamed caution. Why was a CEO's daughter sitting like this, separated from her world of luxury and security? Across the aisle, the CEO glanced up briefly, noticing his daughter talking animatedly with the woman. His brow furrowed, a mix of curiosity and unease crossing his features. He had always been distant, wrapped in meetings, deals, and a life of influence. Yet something about this moment, the innocence of his child seeking connection, made him pause. The conflict was subtle but intense. Power versus human touch. Responsibility versus personal connection. Meanwhile, the single mom's thoughts spiraled. Her daughter would have loved to see such generosity, yet she worried about boundaries, about stepping too far into someone else's life. There was a tension she couldn't ignore, between kindness and fear, between the ordinary world she knew and the extraordinary one unfolding beside her. The plane continued its journey, each minute stretching longer, leaving everyone caught in a fragile moment where one choice could change everything. But no one knew which choice would come first. The little girl's hand lingered over the cookie, her small fingers trembling slightly as if she sensed the weight of the moment. She looked up at the single mom, her eyes searching for a signal, for a reason to trust. The woman's heart raced, torn between the instinct to protect herself and the pull to respond with kindness. Every fiber of her being told her this was no ordinary encounter. It felt like a crossroads, a moment where choices could ripple far beyond the airplane cabin. Across the aisle, the CEO finally set aside his phone. His gaze was sharp now, watching the interaction between his daughter and the woman. There was something about the way the girl leaned forward, shy yet insistent, that unsettled him. For years, he had maintained control over everything, image, family, but here, on this plane, he felt helpless, caught in a situation that couldn't be measured in contracts or profits. The single mom's mind raced faster. Should she say yes and share the cookie, stepping into this unfamiliar world of wealth and privilege? Or should she protect herself, remain distant, and let the moment pass? The cabin seemed to shrink, the hum of the engines louder, the tension between them almost tangible. One wrong word, one wrong move, and the fragile connection could shatter completely. The little girl's voice broke the silence, soft but insistent. "Please." And in that one word, everything hung in balance: innocence against caution, courage against fear, trust against doubt. The single mom finally reached for the cookie, her fingers brushing against the little girl's, when suddenly, a voice called sharply from behind them, "Emily, what are you doing?" The CEO's tone carried a mixture of authority and panic. The little girl's eyes widened, and the cookie slipped slightly from her grasp. The mom froze, her mind spinning. It wasn't just a quiet act of kindness anymore. She had stepped into a world she didn't fully understand, and now the consequences were staring her in the face. Emily's father hurried over, but something in his expression was unexpected. Instead of anger, there was confusion, almost admiration. in the way he looked at the woman beside his daughter. He knelt slightly, keeping his voice low. "Why is she sharing that with you?" he asked, almost to himself. The question hung in the air, loaded with implications the mom couldn't yet comprehend. The mom's heart pounded. She realized the situation was far more complicated than a simple act of generosity. This little girl, the CEO, and even this brief encounter could alter more than a flight ticket, could change reputations, relationships, and decisions that seemed untouchable. Emily clutched the cookie tighter, looking between them both, sensing the tension but not fully understanding it. The cabin felt smaller, the stakes higher, and the air crackled with possibilities. One small choice could spiral into something none of them were ready for. The single mom took a deep breath, her hand finally resting on the little girl's, gently holding the cookie. "I'll stay," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Emily's eyes lit up, a radiant smile breaking through the tension. For a moment, the world seemed to pause, the hum of the plane, the distant chatter of passengers, all fading into the background. The CEO watched silently, a strange mix of relief and awe crossing his face. His daughter's simple act of sharing had pierced through walls he hadn't realized. He'd built around himself and his family. He knelt beside them, placing a hand on the mom's shoulder. "Thank you," he said, quietly. It wasn't about the cookie. It was about trust, about humanity bridging two worlds that rarely met. The single mom felt a warmth she hadn't known in years, a fleeting sense of belonging she thought she'd lost forever. Just as she began to relax, the plane hit turbulence. Passengers gasped, the cabin shook, and Emily clutched her father tightly. But in the chaos, she whispered, "I think he knows something. He's going to help us." The mom turned to see the CEO smiling in a way she hadn't expected. His phone buzzed with a message that hinted at a secret plan, something bigger than any of them had imagined. The moment of connection had shifted everything. But the real story was only just beginning. As the plane steadied, the tension slowly dissolved, leaving a quiet sense of relief in its wake. The single mom held Emily's hand, feeling an unexpected bond form between them, a connection born of trust, kindness, and a shared moment above the clouds. The CEO leaned back in his seat, watching his daughter's laughter mingle with the mom's gentle smile. For the first time, he realized that life's richest moments weren't measured in deals or profits, but in small, genuine acts of love and courage. The flight continued, but the atmosphere had changed. Passengers moved about, unaware of the little miracle that had unfolded in their midst. Emily shared her cookie with the mom, and in doing so, had given both women a gift far greater than a simple treat. It was a lesson in empathy, in seeing the humanity in others, and in letting walls fall away even when life had made them necessary. By the time the plane touched down, plans had been quietly made, friendships formed, and perspectives shifted. The single mom realized that sometimes, life's most unexpected encounters could open doors she had long thought closed. And as Emily skipped ahead toward her father, hand in hand with the woman she now trusted, the future felt full of possibility, hope, and a reminder that kindness could change everything.